Welcome to WWGOA Live. We had a great session a month ago, and we're looking forward to another good session tonight. We had, I think, the Luck of the Irish was with us last time. It was the day before St. Patty's Day, so we finally overcame a bunch of technical issues. I'm talking to Joni Van Dusartz. She's here with us tonight. Joni's got a lot of woodworking depth of knowledge, including these very cool things. So, Krista, can you come in on these projects that Joni brought? This is, if you've not seen it before, this is intarsia. What's the deal with intarsia, Joni? Give us the overview.
Intarsia is like a mosaic made from wood. A lot of people know Judy Gale Roberts.
Big name, yep.
Yep, big name. She makes all kinds of patterns, has all kinds of cool classes. She lives down in Tennessee. Great gal, and these are some of her patterns.
So on yours, is what they're seeing, has it been stained at all, or are you creating the picture by using woods that are the correct color to create the image?
Yep. So you get these patterns from, for instance, Judy Gale Roberts, and they will say use a light wood or a medium colored wood or a dark wood. And so it's all personal preference. You get to check your wood pile, see what you have for scraps and what can work.
And it's a good way to use up scraps, right? Because it's so many small pieces. But I think the understated part of what Joni's talking about here is the way that they all nest together, and that's what really makes this work, is that when you're cutting each of these pieces, there's a method to the madness so that they do nest and the picture looks okay. Yep. And the other thing that's cool, if we do this, Krista, is the three-dimensional nature of it. So not every piece is a 3/4 inch piece of stock.
Right.
And by having different layers or different thicknesses of material in there, it makes everything pop and stand out a little bit. Scroll saw or bandsaw to do the cutting? Scroll
saw. You have a lot more control, a lot easier, and some of these little pieces, there's no way you'd ever make it through a bandsaw.
And probably not very safely.
Not very safely.
You're rounding the corners to get everything kind of three-dimensional looking. Is that hand sanding or router, or, I mean, again, really tiny pieces must have to be sanded?
The bigger pieces, these bigger pieces, I used a router on. After that, some of the smaller ones that you just, there's no way to safely do that with a router either. So then a palm sander.
A lot of detail work.
A lot of putzing.
How many hours in something like this, you remember?
There's about 60 hours.
Wow.
It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of putzing, and then you always wake up thinking of what else you could do to make it look a little bit different.
Well, they're very cool. They're very cool.
Thanks.
The eyes are really make this wolf pop. All right, so Joni is open for questions. Outside of intarsia, also got experience in a cabinet shop.
I do.
So
I do. I've been in a cabinet shop for 20 years.
Yep. So whatever you got, lay them on us. Krista, you might have a question for us.
Yeah, I have several questions. Phil wants to know how many jigs are in your shop and how often do you use them?
Why don't you hit the wall behind the table saw? So a lot. I don't know. I'd be hard pressed to quantify. I bet there might be 100 jigs in here. I don't know. And some of them, probably the same way for you, Joni, in your shop. Some stuff you make it and it's real purpose specific. Mm-hmm. But I hate to throw it out because maybe that's going to come up again and I can save the time. So there are jigs that I use very, very regularly. And then there's others that they're probably an inch layer of dust on them because I haven't touched them in 5 years. Yeah. So the answer is it depends. But there are many jigs. I'm a big believer in simplifying woodworking by using jigs.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. William wants to know, when you're working with a bandsaw, is it really necessary to have a carbide tip blade for resawing? Oh,
good question. No. So bimetal blade or silicon carbon is another type of bandsaw blade. I've done lots of resawing with carbide blades. Are great, but they're very expensive. It's like I think on a 14-inch bandsaw that takes a 105-inch blade, you could pay $140 easily for a carbide blade. So if you're going to cut a lot of abrasive materials, it's a great way to go because you're going to get miles and miles and miles of cutting out of that. But it's not imperative that you have it. Like I said, a good bimetal, it's more about tooth pattern. 3 to 4 teeth per inch is going to get you where you want that good aggressive cut so that it can resaw.
Okay. Thank you. And just a reminder for everybody who just joined us, I'm here live with George Van Dusartz, Managing Editor of WWGOA, Woodworkers Guild of America, and Joni Van Dusartz. She's our guest tonight. We've got lots of questions rolling in, so we're trying to get to all of them as quickly as we can. Greg
Kristen usually yells at me because I talk too much. I spend too much time explaining.
Like this.
Yes.
Greg wants to know, in the world of benchtop planers, how important is it to have more than one speed?
So let's go to the benchtop planer, and we can talk this through. And Joni, where's the? Maybe grab that. It's a piece of veneer. That bird's eye piece would be kind of a good example. So Greg is asking about benchtop planer. We've got one here. This particular one is not variable speed. It's a single speed. So what's the deal with speed control? Well, on something like this piece that Joni grabbed, this piece of bird's eye maple. Now this is admittedly a veneer on a piece of walnut, but it helps prove our point. With some highly figured woods like this, (24 feet per minute on high and 16 feet per minute on low. At that higher feed rate, the chisels are the knives are much more likely to chip material out of the surface. So the ability to slow it down, the benefit is a much cleaner cut, especially in highly figured woods. So they might cost a little bit more money, the variable or the dual speed planers, but you make that back on saving material because you don't get chips.
Yeah. Great. Frank, why don't you stay there? Frank wants to know, he says he's been a subscriber for a year. He enjoys all your videos, but he has an issue. He watched the episode with the CNC router, the Piranha. He bought a Piranha router. He's having trouble getting it to go to the right height or depth to make the cuts from the thumb drive. He wants to know, he's tried using a touch plate to set the height for cutting. Can you tell him what he's doing wrong? If he needs to contact next week, he understands that. But. Okay,
so Joni, jump in here. You've used a CNC machine. So he's programming, but then when it cuts, it's not cutting to the right depth. What do you think?
Okay, I think he's got his zero set wrong. There's each of those CNCs seems to set the zero height, whether it's at the top of your material, at the top of your spoil board. You know, you need to figure that out.
And he finds that in the machine or in his, or I'll take that back. When he sets the zero, that's in the machine or in the software that he's doing the design.
To the best of my knowledge, anyway. Yeah. I worked with a bigger CNC, but in the CNC that I used, it was in the software.
Yeah, I agree with Joni. I think what I've had that happen a couple times.
Yeah,
where
and I've had it happen too.
It goes like out air cutting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, what's the deal with that? So it's check where the zero is supposed to be, and then where you have it on your setup.
Yep.
And I think that I agree with Joni. I think that'll solve it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Eric wants to know, is there something he can do to keep resin from sticking onto his table saw blade?
Did you guys work with a lot of pine? Some, right? You
some.
Did some number two pine stuff?
Yeah, some, but not enough to leave a lasting, huge issue. Yeah, with residue.
Yeah, it's tough. Some of the blade lubricants or blade cleaners, I think,
I was gonna say,
also leave behind a little bit of a coating that'll help prevent stuff from sticking. But the bottom line, I think if you're using a sappy wood, if you're using a resiny wood like pine, southern yellow pine, yeah, it's just going to be there. And you got to clean frequently because a dirty blade will act just like a dull blade.
Yeah.
So it does take frequent cleaning to stay ahead of it. But there's no like, have you ever seen like I don't know, spray on Teflon or something?
Yeah,
I don't know.
But none of those things work long term.
Yeah. Just keep cleaning.
Yeah.
Okay. Jean wants to know, is there any information out in the woodworking world that has step-by-step procedures to build kitchen cabinets? He's purchased a lot of books, but he's not finding the information he wants. So looking for something online that he doesn't have to pay a lot of money for, that can walk him through step-by-step kitchen cabinet making.
Well, we've got stuff on WWGOA. Yeah, it's a good question for us. So we've got, I don't know, we've got probably 5 or more, 6 cabinet making related videos on WWGOA.com. So being slightly biased as I am, I would suggest looking there. There is one. It's kitchen cabinets part 1 and 2. And to be fair, I'm going to say it's available as a DVD. I'm not sure it's available yet in a streaming platform. So if it's not streaming on GOA, look in the shop and see if a hard copy of it is available there. But in that one, I actually built a full set of lowers and a full set of uppers and a laminate countertop. And everything is start to finish from bringing the melamine in to the face frame to everything. So kitchen cabinets part 1 and 2.
Okay. Mike wants to know, he just bought a Laguna 1412 bandsaw, and he needs to know the best way to store his extra blades.
Okay, I'm going to get a bandsaw blade. Ask Joni a question, so there's not dead time.
Oh, okay. I shall ask Joni a question.
There you go.
Okay, how about staining wood, Joni? We've got tons of questions about staining wood. They want to know, like, what's the best stain for a light wood, dark wood, those kind of things. What are your suggestions?
Okay. We worked a lot with Sherwin-Williams and Hirschfields. They do a good job of matching. It's their job, right? They have a lot of different variations on the stains that they put out. There are, I guess, for a plug of Sherwin-Williams, they have a wiping stain that was pretty awesome, whether that was a light or a medium or a dark wood. They all took to it real well, and it was easy as the person doing the staining not to leave your fingerprints in there, not to leave streaks and things like that. Some of the different light woods, birch, sometimes it'll take stuff splotchy. That's kind of birch's signature, what it does. But Sherwin-Williams, wiping stain. How about you?
Is it
Minwax? Minwax does a pretty good job too.
is the Sherwin-Williams product a not a gel stain, but just it's
an
a
oil-based, liquid. Mm-hmm.
And you wiped it on or sprayed it on?
If you had a little job, you wiped it on, but as a rule, we sprayed it. Yeah.
And it's hard to nail down. It's so subjective. I mean, I agree with Joni. One, you can't beat a professional if you're trying to color match, and that's what the Sherwin-Williams and Hirschfields. That's what they do.
Yep.
And it's so, but then it becomes so personal. Like, well, what color should it be, or something? We can't really answer that because it depends on what you're trying to do with the material. Yeah. All right, bandsaw blade.
Bandsaw blade.
So this will be a little bit of a video challenge or a camera challenge.
I'm going to stand off this.
Oh, it's not going to be much of a bear trap. A little bit of a bear trap.
Yeah,
so
I've seen these. I've seen this.
I think we're asking about coiling a bandsaw blade so I can store it. So I'm right-handed. So I'm going to step on the blade with my right foot. And if you want to protect the blade, it's not a bad idea to put a piece of wood between your foot and the floor. Then my right hand, I'm going to turn inside out. So my natural position is with my right thumb facing left. I'm going to make my right thumb face right. It feels real awkward. Then I'm going to bring my hand around 360 degrees. Is that 360? And at the same time, I'm going down toward the floor, and that coils the blade. So we'll do that again. Now you have the benefit of when this video is archived, you can always come back and watch and pause and see it again. Right toe on the blade, left hand gets turned, or right hand gets turned inside out. That right hand is going to come around 360 degrees. And at the same time, allow it to go toward the floor, and that'll coil it. Then we're not done, because now this is a bear trap. It wants to open because of the, I don't know, spring nature.
Yeah, it's meant to be a big circle.
So you've got to take one more step here and throw a piece of masking tape or something around it. So when this is just hanging on a wall, it can't pop and hit you in the face.
Thank you very much.
Easy.
Just a reminder that I'm here with George Van Dusartz, Managing Editor of Woodworkers Guild of America, and Joni Van Dusartz is our guest tonight. Follow us on Twitter, like our page on Facebook. Go out, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, go ahead and do that as well.
So let me do an article commercial while we're in between, and we're showing them the really messy side of the shop from this perspective. Well, and I want to hit Joni's intarsia again in case people came in late. So let's reposition. Tomorrow, we're releasing an article, How to Build a Bat House, and we worked hand in hand with this with Bat Conservancy International, and Bats are good. You might not think so because people think they're flying rodents, but they eat gazillions of bugs every day. So that How to Build a Bat House article is going to be released tomorrow. There'll be Dave McKintrick wrote it, and he did a really great job of breaking the process down so it's very builder friendly. Great project to do with kids or in a large group, like somebody's looking for a civic project. Scouts want to build bat houses for camp or something. It really lends itself to that. Oh, and Joni's intarsia while we're here. So if you came in late, I'm sorry, that's why we walked over here. If you came in late, Joni's with us tonight, and Joni's done quite a bit of intarsia. She brought some samples to show us. So Joni's also here for questions. You can ask her about a little scroll saw work, intarsia work, whatever you got. All right, Krista, what do you know?
Okay, Jeff wants to know, how do you remove paint from wood?
Well, sander would be one answer.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
mechanically or chemically, right?
Yeah,
Are two
right.
choices.
Yeah.
Have you done much furniture stripping to get paint off?
No, anything we did that had paint on it, we put it through a sander.
I think it's tough, and I think the strippers have changed a lot in recent, where it used to be like the stuff you had were rubber gloves, and it
Right.
really removed the paint, but it also like
It
killed
was
you.
toxic.
Yeah, if you breathed it. So honestly, I'm not real versed today on where the chemical strippers are at, but I mean, those are your two choices. Go to someplace. Maybe we're back to Sherwin-Williams and Hirschfields again. Go to somebody that knows finishing, see what they have for chemical removers, and then you got to decide: do I want to do that or do I want to sand? Certainly, mechanical is going to take it off. A scraper or a sander or both.
Time.
Yeah.
Takes
Or take it to a place that does dipping if it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
complex piece of furniture,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. They dip, comes out, it's
and it just
pretty
melts
clean.
off.
Okay, Danny wants to know, how can I prevent tear out when using a Forstner bit over 1 inch? In 1/4 inch plywood, he's tried tape and a backer. He has about 35 holes that are approximately a 1/2 inch apart. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
the veneer material is kind of what's given him
Yeah.
fits, probably.
Yeah.
Um,
He's already using tape.
check your speed, because I think if you're running too slowly, the bit, I mean, there's this thing with Forstner, but run too fast,
You burn.
yeah, they start to burn. It's not, they don't have an opportunity to cut, they just rub.
Yeah.
So I would check the speed, and I don't know off the top of my head, I don't know, can we guess at an RPM for a 1 inch bit?
I can't.
Yeah, I don't know. I would do it experientially, because I think if you go too slow when you exit through, it's going to have a greater tendency to blast that veneer on the backside.
Bad.
And then you got to make sure the bit is sharp.
I was going to say sharp. That's
We've got a
huge.
video online about sharpening Forstner bits using a Dremel tool, so it's very user friendly. It's very easy to do, and definitely make sure your bit is a good quality and it's good and sharp. Speed, feed pressure.
And you can look those up online. Those speeds
The
and
speed.
feeds. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Roger wants to know, Joni, what is your go-to blade for scrolling?
The Olsen blades are really good blades. I haven't, let's see, number 5, probably that mid-range kind of scale. I've tried some of the twist blades and things like that, and they're interesting. They work well, but in general, you're used to going in a direction. So when you start using a twist blade, you start to make marks that are places you didn't want to go.
Because it's cutting on all sides.
Because it's cutting,
Yeah, it seems like it
it'll
would
cut
be
in all
weird to get
directions.
used to.
Mm-hmm.
And number 5 tells us what the size of the blade and the tooth
And the
count,
tooth, yeah, tooth count.
and that's for 3/4 inch stock. That's
Yep.
Cool.
Yep, just mid-range.
All right. Lewis wants to know, he's getting started in making furniture. He got a PM 701 mortise machine today. He'd like any hints.
Congratulations.
Yeah, no kidding.
He'd like any hints on proper operation, things to look out for. It sounds like his first couple of cuts, the underneath has been a little messy. Is that normal?
Okay. Do you have a question for Joni if I go get a mortiser?
Well, let me scroll through here really quick.
I think there was one about something to do with staining through and through. Joni might be able to speak to that.
Staining through and through.
Oh, sure, here it is. So, someone wants to know, is there a way to stain wood through and through? In other words, can he make a light wood, a dark wood using a wood stainer?
Well, boy. Okay, so I suppose it depends on the thickness of your wood. If you're working with a veneer, I suppose you could, but I don't know anything thicker than a veneer that would work for. People grow it. You know, there are places out west where people grow the trees and they shoot dye into the ground to make the trees green and blue.
So the question is about completely saturating the wood.
Yeah.
Saturating the wood through and through. Even pine that will soak up just about anything. You just aren't going to make it
I can't
even
imagine
through a
what it
quarter
would
inch.
take to get complete.
Saturation.
Because I think when they do that stuff commercially to a piece of wood, not a tree, it's done under pressure.
Yeah.
And that pressure
Pushes
environment,
it into
shoves
the
the
grains.
finish in.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be tough.
Well, while George is setting up, I'm just going to remind anybody who maybe just joined us that I'm here with George Van Dusartz, managing editor of Woodworkers Guild of America, and our special guest is Joni Van Dusartz. She had a cabinet shop and she did this beautiful intarsia that she brought for us today. So feel free to ask her those questions that you might have as well.
All right, so this is going to be all about, this will be the tightest shot maybe of your life, Kristen. About if you can get in here. There you go. Nice. So let's give everybody a little bit of a once over on this whole thing. With a mortiser like this, and who are we speaking to again? I already forgot the name because my memory's so short.
I think it is Lewis.
Lewis. All right, Lewis, so here's the dealio. We've got two parts to the system, and are you in on it looks like you are here on the cutter, and I'm going to switch to a pencil. One part is the auger that runs in the middle that takes most of the waste out. This is a hollow chisel, which oddly enough is why these are called hollow chisel mortisers. What this is going to do is shear the rest out so we end up with a square hole when it's done. The relationship between the tip of the auger and the tip of the hollow chisel is really, really critical. The auger has to lead the cut by just a little bit. And if it's out too far, you might bend your auger and you're going to end up with a hole a lot deeper than you need. And if it's back too far, it's not going to get the waste out before the hollow chisel is. So a way to do this, and I would set it up this way on the mortiser, but it'd be hard for you to see, is to start with these even with a dime between this shoulder and the casting on the mortiser. And that dime is going to become my spacer. So I would put these two in together. Insert a dime, which I don't have. Oh, wait, maybe I've got a something.
You didn't come.
No, I don't. It's paper.
You didn't.
It's a chunk of paper that went through the laundry. Never mind. I would put the dime in between the top of the hollow chisel and the bottom of the casting and lock that in place. And then and I realize these hold downs are blocking you. Then make the bottom of the cutter, the spur of the auger, even with the bottom of the hollow chisel. I'm doing that by feeling it with my finger. And then loosen up the hollow chisel again, take out the dime and push it up until it seats. And that'll give you just the right lead here. This is out a little further than it should be because I was estimating the thickness of a dime. And then he talked about his first cuts being, what were they, Krista, ugly on the backside?
It sounds like it's messy on the bottom.
Well, they're going to be messy on the bottom if you're doing a blind mortise like this, because we've got the marriage of the tip of the auger leaves a little round recess in there where the hollow chisel doesn't quite get down there. And that's just going to be the way it always is. That's okay. Our other big setup is making sure that this chisel the faces of the chisel are parallel to the face of your work. And you can do that by, are you back down there again, Krista?
Yeah.
If you bring the chisel down You've got a square cut end. Put that square cut end against the side of the chisel, and then turn the hollow chisel as needed until it meets completely against that square cut end. And I'm trying to think, I think we may have an article about about chisel mortiser setup. I'm just going to do a cut just because it's cool. I think making square holes is like the neatest thing ever. I remember when I first got this particular machine, I was building a bed and I had to do 3/8 mortises. And when I successfully cut the first one, it was like, I was calling everybody I knew because I just thought it was so cool. Sequence of cut is important. I'll see if I can twist this enough. So if I have a long mortise, like we have here, I would do an end and an end. So it looks like that. Then when we come in, you want that hollow chisel to always be cutting on 4 sides or on 2 sides, never on 3 sides. So we don't want the next cut to be immediately next to this one. And the reason is, if it's cutting on 3 sides, the hollow chisel can deflect into that open area. So my next cut should look like this. And then you come back and take that bridge out. So now we're cutting on 2 sides. Almost done with this, then we'll move on. And then, Chris, if you get a good shot of this, this is a good example of a hollow chisel that is not correctly set, because this is all kind of sawtoothed here. Mm-hmm. There you go. And if you get them both in the shot, Krista, then there you go, nice shot. So this, the first one I had already had complete. The walls on that are nice and straight, but on this one, they're all zigzaggy. That tells me that that hollow chisel component is twisted just a little bit. That needs to be corrected before you're actually making your real mortise. So hopefully, Louis, that gets you
well done.
Mortising. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Sam wants to know, Joni, where do you get your patterns for your intarsia pieces? Do you draw them yourself, or do you have a recommended resource to find those patterns?
Judy Gail Roberts is a great, she's got a lot of patterns out there. She's very easy to follow, and it's very wide open. It's easy to adjust her patterns if you see something you'd rather do. I've done a couple of my own. That's pretty cool, pretty fun. Once you've done a couple of someone else's, you can kind of see how it lays out, and you start to see pictures differently in your own mind's eye. So that's fun too.
Okay, and I actually have another one for you from Mike. He's always wanted to do an intarsia project. He's been saving awesome wood scraps for a future project. Do you have any suggestions for a newbie to get started? Newbie.
The projects are always listed by piece number. So whether, some of them are 100 pieces. I made a 52-inch eagle once, and that was 300 and some pieces. So the lower the number of pieces, that's a great place to start, because it gives you an idea what you're going to be looking at. Always make sure your blade is square to the table.
That would be huge if that's wrong.
It's huge if that's wrong, because it multiplies over the whole thing. If you don't check that up front, you're going to be sanding till the cows come home, trying to get that back out, and you don't want big gaps between your pieces. But starting with a low count number first, and it gives you something under your belt to say, yeah, I got this.
Okay, great. And I got some more questions for you. So,
I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
What?
No, you're
I'm
not.
leaving.
Yeah, right.
You want a Gatorade? I get very dry.
Sure, that'd be great.
Do you have any tips for somebody who's trying to draw their own pattern for the first time? Do you just sketch it, or is there a specific method?
Is there software maybe for this?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. When I started, I looked in crayon books, as silly coloring books, something that's got a bigger picture. You don't want something with a whole lot of real tight curves into it, because those inside-outside curves, when you're trying to put your parts together, are going to be tough to marry up that first time. So give yourself some leeway. Let yourself learn a little bit.
Big sweeping curves is more better.
Yeah.
And Greg wants to know, he must have maybe just joined us. Do you prefer a scroll saw over a bandsaw on the projects, especially like that wolf that's right there?
Absolutely. Scroll saw
This
versus
is all I'm here
bandsaw.
for now. And Vanna what?
Vanna. Yep, it's gonna be a lot easier to do the detail.
Safer.
And safer overall. Some of these parts, so on this wolf, this little piece right here, that was a piece of ebony. And ebony is like cutting a piece of rock. That only came about because I could shave off a piece on an edge. So learn about your woods that you're going to use too. Some of them are really great and beautiful, but if they're so hard that you're hurting yourself just holding it down.
And it seems too, like bandsaw versus scroll saw, the cut quality, even if we do, you can get maybe a 14 tooth, so that's 14 teeth per inch blade for a bandsaw. But one, you can't get small enough. It's easy to buy an 1/8 inch blade. It's hard to get anything smaller than that.
Yep.
And for a scroll saw, they're like almost need a microscope to see the blade. They're so tiny. So quality of cut and ability to make these intricate curves, the scroll saw really lends itself to the intarsia.
Yep.
Right?
Thank you.
And do you cut, so what I would like to know, when you're cutting this, are these pieces stacked together? So you're cutting them both. So you really got to be careful about following this line, because then when you follow this line, you're expecting them to play nice together.
Yep. For me, when I did do this wolf, I traced this just to make sure, although I had a pattern for it, I traced around this and I laid it on top of the pattern piece that I had. And that was a little different.
You had made this first.
Yep.
And then actually traced the physical pieces to get the pro. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeff wants to know, he says he's new to the turning world. He purchased the Harbor Freight Chisel Set and it got dull very quickly. So he wants to know, what would you recommend for the starting wood turner when it comes to the best chisel set to purchase, keeping in mind cost versus quality?
Yes.
Okay.
No, we can do better than that. Ask Joni another intarsia question. Or any question.
Hey, anybody have any more intarsia questions?
I'll be right back.
Send them out. Oh, let's see. I guess I should have spread those out. They were just coming so quick.
Well, that's okay. Here we are. All right, so we'll get you another detail shot out of you first. It used to be, back in the day when I was learning to turn, we could break chisels broadly into two categories of material, which would be high-speed steel and tool steel. High-speed steel is going to cost more when you buy it. The benefit is it's a harder steel, so because it's harder, it's going to be harder to sharpen, but it's going to hold its edge a lot longer. All chisels have been tempered. And even on the tool steel chisels, we've got a tempered edge here. I don't know on the Harbor Freight ones, is it a function of the quality of the steel, the tempering, both? One of the things you got to watch out for is if you're sharpening with any kind of a power sharpener, if you take the temper out of the steel, if you get it too hot, then it's not as hard and it's going to dull quickly. So I would recommend going to tool steel. It's going to cost more money, but if you're investing in your turning, it's going to be a better, oh, nope, stay where you are because I'm going to do one more. Sorry.
Well, and you'll have resale too, right? So this is like a fruit chisel or something like that.
Yeah, it's a higher, it's going to hold its value better.
Right. Right.
And then this seemed like a really good idea. Oh, it's taped in. Okay. It's idiot proof, so I'm having a problem.
Wow.
Wait, stay right where you are. Don't get bored looking at those two chisels. There we go. Okay. This is kind of the newest thing. This is, the brand is Easy Wood, and that is a chunk of carbide in the tip. So what a lot of turners like about this is you never sharpen. If this cutting surface gets dull, you loosen the Allen screw, and you can turn this to a fresh area, turn it to a fresh area, turn it to a fresh area. When this is completely shot, you take that out, you put in another insert. So the carbide chisels, I think that in our price categories, least expensive, middle of the road, most expensive, I think, but confirm that with the retailers. But the benefit you get is that with these carbide chisels, you never have to go to the sharpener. So if you're looking to turn for a long time, if you like the hobby, that's an investment that'll do you well.
So do they have different tips, or do you have to buy a different handle for each?
It's a good question. They do have different tips, each of which is on its own handle. Because of the way this is shaped for the round one, there's one that's square. It's a roughing chisel. There's one that's V. That's there's a variety of shapes available.
Okay, and while we're on the topic of chisels, we have quite a few people this week asking us about sharpening. I know we've talked about it in the past, but if you want to just remind them where they could go to see, or if there's any articles you've got about. We
do have a lot of video online about sharpening lathe chisels and bench chisels and plane irons and card scrapers. Is there a big category that people are asking about tonight, like specifically bench chisels, lathe chisels, or just sharpening in general?
Just sharpening.
Okay. So yeah, it's all of that stuff you can find. A lot of those videos on GOA, and again, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a search window, and you can just put in there sharpening, or you could put in there sharpening lathe chisels, and that'll get you in the right direction. And I think, Krista, didn't we in March, we sharpened chisels live?
Yep.
So if you look at the March 16th live, everything on there, there's a time code that tells you when in the 1 hour live we did the sharpening or anything else. So you can always go back and look at those archived, and that's why we're glossing over it tonight, is because we know we have it archived from last month.
Thank you very much. John wants to know, he's going to be making raised panel doors for the first time, and he doesn't know the difference, I'm probably going to ruin this, between the large, shorter OG bit?
Yep.
Oh, all right. The OG bit or the taller, vertical, raised, thinner bit. Both do the same, but what is your opinion? Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to walk over here.
I'll ask Joni an intarsia question. Okay, how do you get the patterns to stick onto the wood?
What I do, I make a lot of copies. I save my original, make a lot of copies, cut out each piece, sort them out so you've got your lights, mediums, and darks. And then I put contact paper on my wood, and I spray both my pattern piece, and that contact paper where I want to put the pattern so that it's on there. Then when you're done cutting, you don't have to sand off your glued piece of paper. You just peel that whole piece off.
So what line are you cutting to? A line on a piece of paper, or a line you've actually transferred to the
contact paper? Nope. Just I put the actual pattern piece on there, so the pattern piece is on your contact paper, but it makes for, you don't have to sand glue mess.
What's holding the contact paper to the material? I missed that part.
It's contact paper.
Oh, hence the name. Got it. So that's easier. That releases better than spray adhesive.
Yep, and as long as you've got the sawdust all removed from it, it'll stay on there. It's great. Great. It works well.
Okay, so tight shot for you again, Krista. Let me know if I'm in a bad place for you. Here's a couple different panel raising bits. This is a OG, and this is actually also an OG. This is a horizontal panel raiser, and I think that's what he's asking about. This is a vertical panel raiser. Vertical panel raisers are generally less expensive than horizontal panel raisers. They don't require as much oomph, as much horsepower to run. You still need a variable speed router because of the diameter of the cutter. You've got to slow it down. So with the vertical panel raisers, one thing I found is this cutter will generally require more passes to get to the finished profile than this one will. We can only do square panels with this one. We could do cathedral or arch top with this one because it's got a ball bearing on it. With this one, we really got to be able to slow it down. This is a 3.5 inch diameter cutter that should be running about 12,000 RPM. So again, variable speed in both cases. Long term, if you think you're going to do a lot of raised panel doors, I think you're going to be better off with a horizontal panel raiser. One of the things I've found is that because we're feeding our material, there's even a raised panel.
There you go.
And this might have been done on this cutter right here a couple videos ago. Because we're feeding our material this way, I find that the cutter has a greater tendency to lift the grain because it's spinning like this. And then as a result, our surface finish isn't quite as good. On this cutter, we're feeding this way, so we're cutting more across the grain. So I do think the horizontal panel raisers give you a little bit better surface finish, less sanding.
Okay, great. So we have some more questions for Joni. Meryl and Abdul both want to know, how do they cut a straight line with a scroll saw?
Use a table saw.
Yeah, don't use a scroll saw. Make sure you set your blade up. Make sure it's taut. Make sure it's square, and go slow. You don't have to plow through anything. Just feed your way through your material. Practice a little bit. I guess practice is the best thing. Some of the woods are real soft and you can go a little faster, and some are really hard and you can't force it.
So I'm gonna reinterpret the question, because I think maybe it's not how do I cut a straight line, but how do I cut to my line?
Okay.
So, but
I don't know, they say straight line, but okay.
Well, I know, but it's just scroll saws lend themselves to cutting curves.
But maybe
mostly.
they don't have a table saw.
No, I know. So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But how about just tips for following my line? Because I think that's so. It can be so frustrating, as it's easy to get off.
Mm-hmm.
But is it just a practice thing? You gotta do it.
It is. You'll get used to where you cut. Don't try to cut right down the center of your line. It's probably not going to work out that way. Stay to one edge a little bit. Then you've got something to sand back to. Once you start diving inside your line, now you not only have made an error on the piece that you want, but the piece that marries into it is going to have a problem too.
And I'm going to guess don't skimp on a scroll saw, because if it's vibrating like crazy, you're not going to be able to follow anyone.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wayne would like to know, can wood be stabilized or sealed to prevent or limit expansion and contraction?
Wood is a living thing. So not really. I mean,
it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about a panel on a door, that's why they only use pieces of wood that are so big, right? And that's why when you lay a floor, you leave room for that to expand. In raised panel doors, same thing. There's a little bit of space.
You got to allow for it. You can't.
Yeah.
I think trying to stop it is a mistake, and it's going to lead to cracking later. So the question being like, all right, but if I spray lacquer 6 sides, if I have a board and I hermetically seal it with lacquer or polyurethane on every side and every edge, doesn't that prevent? Well, it doesn't. It's still seasonally, it's still going to expand and contract, and you got to let it do so. Otherwise, use plastic laminate, because that doesn't expand and contract at all.
Okay. Wonderful.
It's going to move. You can't stop it.
Okay. I have a question here from Dale. He wants to know how to start out with SketchUp for woodworking.
You're like finding the best questions, because we have a SketchUp class online. David Radke is the instructor for the class, and David does, if you've seen the plans that we use for our articles on GOA, David has drawn a lot of those. David, Bruce Kieffer, Dave McKintrick, all editors for us that do our drawings. David has done all of his on SketchUp, David Radke. So he's the instructor for the class, and what we did with this, it starts with how to set up your desktop, whether it's a Windows or what's the other guy? Yeah, Mac. Whether it's a Windows or a Mac, setting up your desktop, learning the basic tools, and then what I think is smart is he actually uses a project that you can build with him in SketchUp to teach SketchUp. Yeah, so
that's a good idea. So you know where you're at.
Well, yeah, and the beauty of it online, of course, is you can pause, rewind, watch it again, and or I think the smart money is watch it on a tablet while you're doing it on your computer. Pause. So you can really click by click, you can stick with David. So anyway, on GOA, you can either search it in the upper right-hand corner, or go to shop. Krista's going like this because I'm talking too much. Shop, classes, SketchUp will be in there.
Great. All right. Gordon says he has a table saw, but he hasn't used it yet because the safety catch, which is supposed to protect you from injury, doesn't fit properly. What should he do now?
Ask Joni a question.
I will. I have one. Mike wants to know, have you ever stained or wood burned your intarsia pieces, or is that considered a no-no?
Oh,
It's right there.
absolutely. So I'll bring this back over and I'll show you that wall too. So these little lines in here to make it look like the pine tree boughs, those are all burnt in there. And inside the pine cones, those little lines are burnt as well. The lines that are in the bird, those are cut. As far as staining or anything like that, George was talking earlier that this wolf's eyes really pop. Well, I didn't have any blue wood and I wanted his eyes to pop too. So I did paint that, but it made a big difference. So absolutely, it's yours.
Do you think are the intarsia purists like really against doing everything out of birch but staining it to hit the right color, or aniline? I mean, aniline dye would be another amazing thing because it's such vibrant colors, but is that a no-no in intarsia, or just whatever? It's your piece of art, so
it's art. And I think because it does cross that line. I know that when we did cabinet stuff, you didn't want to see a stain on there if you didn't have to. You wanted to see that natural wood all around. But this is up to everybody's individual preference. It's very cool.
Whatever makes it work.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back and
Gordon.
Thank you. All right, so Gordon's asking, and he hasn't used his table saw because sounds like the braking mechanism. The safety catch, which is supposed to keep you safe, doesn't fit. So I'm assuming he's got to be talking about a saw stop because I'm not familiar with any other saws that have a safety catch. So Gordon, I'm going to say check your brake. This is the brake for my saw. My saw stop is from 2007. It's 9 years old. The older machines have a clear plastic housing on them. The newer machines have a blue plastic housing on them. They are not interchangeable. So if I know because I blew a brake and then I thought, well, maybe I can use this one and I couldn't. So this will not go in your machine. So check and make sure, based on your model number, you might have to call SawStop to confirm which one you're supposed to have. But make sure you're trying to put the right brake in there. And when you're new to it, it can take just a little fussing to get it in just the right spot so that then the red pin can go in there. This is another thing we've got a video on. Sam, the director, and the camera guys did a great job on this. We buried a camera in the saw cabinet to really capture what it takes to get a saw stop brake on and off. Cool. So I think saw stop brake on GOA in the search window will get you to that topic.
Nice.
Okay. So Max would like to know, how do you varnish a finished wood part and keep it from gathering dust particles while drying? Because even a few particles will ruin the finish.
Yep. That's tough because so many woodworkers are finishing in their shop because they don't have the benefit of a finishing room. And I think part of what you probably need to do is stop your woodworking and then don't do anything for a while. So the dust can settle.
For a while.
The air filters that hang from the ceiling will go a long way toward grabbing junk out of the air while you're working, so you don't have so much stuff trickling down. One of the tips somebody gave me, and I think we maybe shot it as a clip, is to use, what are those baskets, Joni, like you're having a picnic and you want to keep the flies off your food. So they're like these mosquito net umbrella sort of things.
Yeah.
So on a small scale, the tip that was sent to us was put your finish on and then put that over the top of it and keep stuff from settling in it. But if you're doing a tabletop, it's not going to help you. So really, you got to try to keep your environment as clean as you can. And my biggest advice would be, don't finish until, I don't know, pick a time. An hour after you've cut the last stick of wood. I don't know. Try to let the junk come out of the air if you can.
Okay. Patrick lives on the Gulf Coast and humidity is a problem in his shop. He can't leave his planes and other hand tools in the garage because they rust. He often has to sand and clean rust off his power tools. What can he do to protect the tools?
Ask Joni a question. I'm coming right back. Or
Okay.
Joni, answer the question. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, somebody wants to know, how long did it take you to make your wolf? Do you remember?
Oh boy. I don't remember exactly. I remember it was hard to get the hair to interlock like this when I first put them together. I'm like, oh. But yeah, probably, I know it took me at least a week steady. So, but I'm kind of fussy and not perfect either. So,
All right. We've talked about this stuff before. And if you've watched videos I'm doing, you've probably seen it before. Glide Coat is a woodworking specific lubricant and sealer. And I can't say enough about woodworking specific because this is the question for the audience. Raise your hand if you know the answer. There's no silicone in this. If you spray silicone on your tools, it can migrate into your wood, and you find that out when you go to put finish on because the finish won't stick. So this stuff I spray on table saw, joiner bed, planer bed. There's no reason why you couldn't put it on the sole and body of a hand plane, your bench chisels, anything that you're trying to protect. You spray it on, give it not even a few minutes, you give it a minute to dry, rub out, buff off the excess, and whatever it leaves behind is going to help things slide better, and it leaves a sealer behind that'll help prevent rust.
cool.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes. So just letting everybody know. Goes fast, right?
Yes, it
It
does.
goes really, really fast.
Oh,
I know.
Hey, no, we haven't asked where people are watching from.
Right, that's true.
No, so you got to tell us. Well, because it's amazing, Joni. We've had,
well, it does. The Gulf
Australia.
Coast question. What's up with that?
well, yeah, it's cool. And Brazil, all over the United
Australia,
States,
New
yeah,
Zealand.
Australia, England. So we get people from Scotland.
That's great.
Yeah, we get people from us. So tell us where you're watching from. And then this is our second live with our new technology setup. So let us know what you think about the video and audio quality as well. I think we've made some substantial improvements there, but you guys are the judge. So
All right.
let us know in the comments.
We have a question for Joni. What is the best amount of tension to have on your scroll saw blades
You wanna
when
go to
you
the
do
scroll
your
saw?
projects?
I don't think I need to. You don't. What do I want to say? You want it taut. You know, you don't want it so that you can push against it and it's going to stay there by any means, but you don't want it so tight that it's going to want to break.
Do you think you could
So-
say a number like with
Yeah, they're usually
gentle
0 to
pressure
10.
on the side of the blade,
Yeah,
it should move. It's
shouldn't
okay if it
move.
moves an eighth inch. Shouldn't move at all.
It shouldn't. No.
And how do we know if it's too tight?
Yeah.
It makes that big bang sound.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've not gone there. I've just known that, you know, I guess I have. I've put it in there. You crank it up to 10, and then it, bing.
So
Wow.
what about like on a bandsaw? Sometimes what I tell people is, if you start with it where you think the tension is too low, and make a test cut. So symptomatically on the
That's right.
bandsaw, it won't cut straight vertically,
Right.
because the blade's going where it wants to instead of where you.
Yep,
So then you could
same
add a
kind of
little
thing.
tension and do a test cut, add a little tension until it's performing. So you're
Sure.
testing by performance
Sure.
rather than, it's
Yep.
so subjective. You know, people pluck the blade and
Yep.
push on the wood.
Okay. We're getting feedback that the audio and video is great.
Good.
Yay.
Good to know.
Excellent.
We got
Let's
two in a row.
Yeah, that's good.
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
Rich lives in Madison. He wants to know if you ever give lessons in your shop.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. We're going to have hands-on classes are on the Van Dusartz Woodworks website now. The classes are listed, and then you'll see stuff on the calendar on there within the next 60 days. So cabinet making, some furniture making, some turning, some CNC related classes. So VanDusartzWoodworks.com is where the classes are shown.
Okay. I think maybe 2 more questions. And oh, by the way, we have somebody who you answered his question, Joni. He's watching from India.
No way.
Awesome.
That's a first. Wow.
Yeah, so.
Welcome.
Okay, Brad wants to know, can a CNC machine make parts that do not look like it was CNC made?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Can you, let's see, Krista, if you go back and maybe, I might have it in here. Sure, that's a good sample. Yeah. So I'm working on some stuff now. We're doing video on CNC next week. So one of the things I did recently was this box. We'll give Krista a chance to come in on it. And I was trying to go in a direction here that the question I think is asking is to give it less of just a mass-produced machine look. So I did this texturing on the lid. So the CNC produced this dome. And then as the next step, I had it texture the dome to give it kind of a random hand-carved look. And then use the size and shape of this oval to create this oval so that they would fit together once the lid was riveted. So I think that, yes, it's just the CNC will do anything that you program it to do.
They and CNCs too, all these like this textured
The
look,
artistic stuff.
you can make it. I mean, there's software out there that you can take a picture of grass or you can take a picture of your dog's hair and bring that back and import those kinds of things in there. There's not much you can't do.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be just cookie cutter parts. There's a lot of creativity you can, if you choose to apply it.
Okay, did you want to just do one more question?
Well, sure. So it's, okay, sure.
Okay, so Rod asks.
I was looking at the clock. That's what I'm just so everybody knows what
So,
I'm doing. Go ahead.
Rod asks, how do you properly use a table saw tapering jig when the stock to be angle cut is longer than the jig itself?
Well, that's going to require you doing a big move, Krista. So let's head for the table saw and we'll end in this corner over here. I'm going to unplugify the saw. And where are you? I'm going to take this off so it's easier to see. And I think, Krista, you're going to have to maybe, if you just scoot to your right a little bit more. Commercial table saw tapering jig. There's a bazillion of these out there. When I loosen this, I can change the angle. So the question sounds like it's, I want to do something like this, but the thing I'm cutting is so long that it would hit the fence before I could start to do the taping. Somebody asked when we first started, what about jigs in the shop? So this would be a case where I would probably not use this jig at all. I would make a jig. This is a tapering jig that's missing a toggle clamp, would be right up here, so that I can put any size of material in this, clamp it in place, and this edge is going to go against the fence. The taper is going to be produced out here. Another way that you can do this kind of thing on a long board is, if I know what taper I want to produce on here, I could lay that out, then take another board and fasten them like this. So then this board, the MDF, is going to run against the fence. And if these were fastened together, I'd be putting a taper on this board. That could be double face tape, that could be screwed, there could be hot glue that holds those together so you can get them apart later. But this is a really good way to cut tapers on really long pieces.
Cool. All right, so so we had so many questions, we didn't even get close to answering them.
Well, we always seem to have that problem.
I know, but like way more than normal, which is really good. So, as we've said in the past, though, George says answer your questions. So where do you go? Where do they need to go to see these questions where you're going to answer them?
So a couple things that the video itself we archive, and you'll find that on GOA, and then we will timestamp all the content points, so you'll be able to see where in the video we talked about saw stop or tapers or whatever. Then below that, where you're commenting now, I'll go back in the next 12 to 24 hours and I'll answer all of those questions. If there's a link I can take you to help answer the question, I'll do that. And that should all, like I said, that should happen in the next 12 to 24 hours. And they'll be right below where the video is archived on WWGOA.
Okay, and we're going to be doing this again next month.
We're making this monthly, and we do not at this time yet have a date, unless there's something. Do you know something I don't know? Okay, then no, we don't have a date yet.
Nope, I'm just confirming.
For next month, yeah.
Yep, and then everybody should go out to Facebook, Twitter, and WWGOA if they're not already members, followers, fans, whatever.
Yeah, and if you're digging the live thing, and we should have you back for this, Joni, we've done some Facebook Lives, which are very spontaneous.
They're cool.
Somebody holds an iPad or I hold an iPad and make everybody dizzy by turning too much. But those are more just kind of like all of a sudden in the spur of the moment, we decide maybe I might be doing something in the shop that I think you would find cool. And those will run 5 to 20 minutes. There's still an opportunity to ask questions. If you go on GOA's Facebook page, you'll see a couple that we've already done because those also get archived. But that's another place you can catch the live stuff. Any parting comments, Joni?
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming.
That was very fun. Very fun.
All right. Well, we're signing off. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Krista, for the great camera work, as always, and the great question asking. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.